The Canon M50, 3 weeks later. What do I still think about this very small, very versatile, very easy to use camera? Well dang, that kind of spoils the whole thing right there. Coming at ya. What's up everybody, I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. A few weeks ago, I was out filming with my Sony a6500 and I got super annoyed at how frustrating and fiddly it was to use. I was using it to film some of my out-of-studio B-roll and out-of-studio narrative, well, not vlogging, well, maybe a little bit. Footage to mixed results. I do want to say that it's an amazing camera that can produce an outstanding image, but for my intended purposes, it was causing more hassle than it was worth. So I decided to go to the one place guaranteed to make your decision easier. The internet. I watched about 50 different videos about vlogging cameras and different kind of cameras and studio cameras, and came across a few channels really singing the praises of the M50. So being the naturally curious person I am, I decided to purchase one to see how good it actually is. And darn imagine my surprise when it's seriously fantastic. Now I've made more than a few videos, and if you want to see some more specifics about the M50, you can see that by going here. Ding! Oh, for some reason I always point to the wrong place, and it makes me really excited when I point to the right spot. Today what we're gonna talk about the things that I really like and the things that I don't really like after using the M50 for 3 solid weeks now. So let's cover the things I don't like first. The main thing I don't like, and it's really the biggest negative, is the low light performance. And I rarely ever say that about cameras, but I've started using more dynamic lighting in my narrative talking head videos, and that causes a lower amount of light in the studio overall. In this situation, I could never use the M50. The image is super noisy. The image quality starts making human skin look really weird at about 800 ISO, which, I mean, that's really disappointing to me because I like having 2 cameras, because sometimes they need to pull double duty when I'm trying to film one of the cameras that I'm talking about. I like talking about cameras, so I need to be able to film the cameras that I'm talking about, which kind of turns into like a catch-22. Okay, and this is the exact shot that we just saw a second ago with the A7 III. So you can see we're at ISO 400 right now. We're at 1080p, 30 frames per second. Everything's, we're as wide open as possible, where everything is possible. It does just, so it's not the best indoor camera, but to get something similar right now, this is the Canon M50 just with my microphone plugged in. That's it. There's no external monitor. There's no anything else to make this work. This is what I use to get this is what I use when I make videos with the A7 III. Look at this honking behemoth. External monitor, well, I mean, this would be on anyway. This is my teleprompter, but this is all the stuff that I use to get the same video, to get this on the A7 III. So I do like the image out of the A7 III better, but you can just see how easy this is. You can easily take this with you anywhere. So easy to use, but it does. It's not as strong indoors in low light. Okay, back to the video. Something else I don't like is the huge crop on the 4K image. Again, I don't really film my out-of-studio shots in 4K. I film them in 1080p 60 or higher, but I really wish I could use this as a backup main camera. But that huge crop makes it pretty tough to use that inside of my small studio here. There's just not enough space to put the camera back that far. And unless this is your very first video about the M50, you'll know that you lose that really great dual pixel Canon autofocus when recording in 4K. Now, I don't think this is a huge deal breaker. I also love Panasonic cameras, and they don't have the best autofocus either, but 4K dual pixel autofocus would make this one of the best, even more so, content creation cameras, the CCC. And the last real complaint I have, I could complain about anything. You could complain about any little issue, but this is the last real one. You cannot see your audio levels when recording video. You can switch to this view and you can see the recording levels, but then you lose the flip screen and all of its functionality, so it's basically a non-option. If you do end up using this camera a lot, you'll know where your audio should be and you'll know how loud you can be, but if you're not as familiar, you could end up with some ruined shots because audio is very, very, very important. And not a single one of those issues is a deal breaker to me. Nothing about this is terrible. Which brings me to the section I'm really excited about, the things that I actually like. First things first, this is such a tiny camera. If you have not held one before, seriously, after this video, go to your local Best Buy or camera store and hold one. It is shockingly small and light. For example, this is the Panasonic GH5, which is one of the largest mirrorless cameras. This is the Canon M50, which is one of the smallest. Look at the size difference on that. That is crazy how small it is. That is crazy how small it is. Next, the flip screen. And honestly, this is really the only camera on the market with a flip screen and awesome autofocus. That means you don't need to baby the screen. It's simply there to be something that lets you see that your exposure is correct and that your framing is good. On the GH5, you also have to worry about focus, but you don't have to worry about it here. That makes this so easy to use. This is a camera that you don't have to fiddle with to get good images out of it. Something else I really like about the flip screen is you can change the settings from the camera screen. If you are someone that spends most of their time in front of the camera, being able to change the settings without getting up and wandering around behind the camera and then coming back and sitting down and reframing yourself, that is such a time saver. I set up the camera and tear it down about 3 or 4 times per video, so not having to do all that is, oh, it's so good. Now, it is kind of limited in the buttons and recording settings, but it makes great use of what it does have. You can have full manual control over all the settings you could want: shutter speed, ISO, aperture. You can control all of that to get exactly the image you want. It's also an APS-C size sensor camera. This small camera has a bigger sensor than this huge honking camera, which means if you want to, you can get a shallower depth of field if that's the image quality you're looking at. Plus, you can get an adapter that works perfectly well with all of the Canon lenses, making this one of the most versatile cameras ever. Okay, before I spend the next week talking about how great it is, the last thing I want to mention, it does have a micro HDMI and you can get clean HDMI out. That means you can use this as a live streaming camera if you really want to. That means you can use this with an external recorder if you really want to get even higher quality video. So what, right? So after 3 weeks of using the M50, I am shocked at how good it is. I've said this a few times before, but I seriously never considered this camera when it first came out. I thought it was a joke. It does have some serious limitations, such as losing the dual pixel autofocus in 4K, the huge 4K crop, and the low light performance. But if you can get over those hindrances, or you don't do very much filming indoors, you'll be able to enjoy one of the easiest to use, best quality cameras on the market today. It's really, really good. Thanks for watching.